choosing an optic, and this is where people make a big mistake about who would be a good candidate for a laser rangefinder or not.
A
Yeah.
better monocular or a better scope? Welcome back, everybody, to the Final How. And on this week's episode, we are going to be joined by Hans from Hans East Texas on YouTube and Outdoor Legacy Gear and the Late Night Vision Show. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Hans, how we doing?
Good, man. That was a mouthful. I didn't realize I had that much on my resume, but I guess after hearing it, there's kind of some stuff there. Yeah. A lot of people ask me about the name Hans. It is a nickname. It's not the name I was born with, and you might be learning something new here, but I talk about it on our show. Hans, if you're a lot of people from rural Texas never go by their real name. They're given a nickname and they don't get to choose their name. So Hans was a nickname given to me that was not chosen. I would have chosen a much cooler nickname than Hans. No offense to anybody out there named Hans, but that's how people know me around here, around town, and now through the YouTube channel and the podcast. Yep, the Late Night Vision Show and Hans ETX. I appreciate the invite. It's good to be here. Good to talk to you about some thermal optics.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And I've bought my last thermal scope and monocular from you at Outdoor Legacy Gear. And I just wanted to get you on here. So if anybody hasn't heard about you guys, they have a chance to hear, because the way you go about it, there's so many choices out there today. If a guy's just now starting to get into the thermals, to me, it's overwhelming between 1280s, 640s, 384s, all the different brands out there. And if you're not for sure on what you need, you can call and talk to you personally, Jason, Garrett over there, and help steer you in the right direction. Yeah. So if you would, when we start this off, just kind of go about telling anybody what to expect when they can call Outdoor Legacy.
Yeah, I appreciate the plug there. Outdoor Legacy is a thermal and night vision dealer. I've been in the industry for, I think now selling night vision and thermal over 10 years, maybe more like 12 or 13 years selling night vision and thermal, really in the beginning of when well before it got popular. But it is definitely something that has been a great experience for me personally. Jason Robertson is the owner of Outdoor Legacy. He's also the co-host of the Late Night Vision Show that we do. And you talked about all the choices out there and the decision-making process and how it can be overwhelming. We started the Late Night Vision Show podcast, which if anybody wants to watch it, Zach, watch your show first and then hop over to the Late Night Vision Show. It's on YouTube. We have a website, thelatenightvision.show.com. But our content is geared heavily towards night vision and thermal optic reviews. So I know your show has a lot of different topics and tactics and stuff like that. Ours is more of the optic reviews. We do a little bit on the tactic stuff, but we really focus on trying to help educate customers. Now, we do the show. Obviously, we've done it now for going on 8 years. We just released episode 383. So we do it every Thursday. You probably know because we do it every Thursday, and we haven't missed a Thursday in 383 weeks. And that was when we started the show, we said we needed to have a consistent resource for people to go and get information about optics. I would say our show, the most popular series or the shows that we produce are really at the end of the year. So we're coming up now, we're going to start doing a series of shows, and we call it the best of. So we usually do the best of entry-level scopes or scopes under 4,000, 5,000. Every week it's a different show on a different category of optic. And so those are our really popular shows where people tune in to help guide them into the decision-making process. So we put out the podcast, we put out the shows for information, public information, and to help people find a start in the process of trying to find out what they need. Now, I never tell people, go watch a review and make your decision based off a YouTube review. I mean, because you're going to get so many different things and you're going to be so twisted around. But in all of our podcast videos, we tell you, call us at Outdoor Legacy and we will help you narrow the search down. So when people call us, they're just so overwhelmed and they say, man, there's so many scopes, so many different brands, choices, features, pricing. And I just don't know where to start. And so we help narrow that search down. And we do that through a series of questions to help us make a good recommendation. Now, um, rarely ever will we say, this is your only option. You got to buy this one. If you don't buy this one, then you're making a mistake. What we try to do is narrow it down to two or three good options for that specific hunter. And then from there, let them make the decision. Now, we're not biased on brand. I mean, we work with all the major premium thermal companies, the ones that have the best reputations, the biggest, the all have facilities here in the United States, good customer service. That's a big thing for us. We're never the first company to go pick up a brand new brand. We want to see how that brand operates. We want to see the customer service experience. We want to obviously test their products. We test a lot of scopes from companies that we don't even work with, just to see what else is out there. And it helps us have a better understanding. So, Zach, when you call and you say, how does my Thermion XG50 compare to a scope that I saw, 10 years ago? Well, we have that experience that can go back and say, well, here's what was around 10 years ago, and this is how it compares, or this is what the difference is. So I say all that to say this is that we help take the confusion out of deciding on a night vision or thermal optic, and we do that just through a consultation. It's not We're not high pressure salespeople. we probably I would say we may talk ourselves out of sales more than we should. And we also downsell a lot, meaning they call in and have a high budget and we say, man, you can do everything you need to do with this lesser expensive optic. But we have a vested interest in making sure that you're happy with the process, that you're happy with the decision, and that you're confident that when you get the optic, it's going to be exactly what you need. And that's what I do all day long. Not only do I produce the late night vision show, which is, you got a show, a lot of editing involved, especially when you're doing it on a weekly basis, man. There's just a lot. It's schedules and editing. I'm always editing or filming. It just seems like. But 8 to 5 every day, I'm on the phone. You can call Outdoor Legacy right now and ask for Hans, and you're going to get to me. I may have to call you back after I get off the phone, but you're going to get to me, and we can have a conversation about what optic that you need, and it'll be just as conversational as Zach, you and I are talking right now.
Well, I feel the biggest thing that led me to you guys was the great content you put out. But the biggest thing that struck me was you don't try to sell anything that you have not used. Jason, Garrett, anybody there, you use the thermal scopes you're selling and all the different brands. So when somebody calls in, they know that they are talking to somebody that has used that scope. If you're selling it to somebody, you have used it.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is a huge thing that
Right.
you do over there.
Yeah, I think firsthand experience is vital. I mean, and not just firsthand experience. There's so much. I don't know. There's you can go there. There are people, and you can go into a convention hall, and there's people that probably do this, that go into a convention hall and go to a thermal manufacturer's booth and pick up a scope and say, "Okay, I've seen it. I can tell a customer everything that I need to know about it." But we all know that a thermal inside looks a lot different than a thermal outside. We know that videos on the internet um, don't sometimes do a scope justice out in the field. There's conditions out in the field. So we test. That takes probably, like I talked about what I do during the day. At night, I am hunting, I'm testing optics. And Jason, the owner of Outdoor Legacy, and my partner on the late night vision show, before I started to get into this full time, I've been full time for several years, but before that, I was like anybody else. I was doing this for fun, producing content, got into this full time, through Outdoor Legacy. And he said, man, if you like to hunt, don't get in the hunting business. Now he was joking, but it's kind of serious. Like it's a job now. It's you're testing optics. You're going out to create content, get video. It's not always, I know it sounds weird. It's not always about the kill shot. It's about, and I love to coyote hunt and love to hog hunt. But it's about getting footage that can properly demonstrate what a scope can do, different ranges, what an object looks like in different conditions, different weather. So there's a lot of times, sounds weird. I never thought I would. I always thought if I took a scope and a rifle, I was going out and I was going hunting. I was going to shoot something. Well, now I'm grabbing three scopes and two binoculars and sometimes not even a rifle and I'm going out and filming. So it is work. But testing optics is a crucial part of being able to speak honestly about a scope recommendation, or if somebody's calling in and giving advice. I would not want to receive advice from, let's say the guy's selling cars and the only experience he has is looking at one in the showroom and an owner's manual. I want a guy that's been in it, drove it, know how it handles, how it drives, what's good about it, what's bad about it. And that way, that's where we're test driving a scope for a customer, because it would be nice if you could go to one place and test every thermal that you wanted to test and use it and look outside with it and just make your decision based on your own experience with it. Fortunately, that's just not the what you can do right now. There's not a place to do that, but you can talk with people that have. And I like to say the Outdoor Legacy is a great dealer. There's other great dealers out there as well. We do focus though on heavily using these optics before we even do a review. I mean, we have 2 or 3 minutes worth of through the optic videos. Well, you say, well, 2 to 3 minutes is not very long. Well, those are clipped into 5-second clips. So to get a 5-second clip, 2 to 3 minutes worth of content, that's dozens of nights of taking that scope out into the field and testing it. And so that's just a lot of work. 2 or 3 minutes, 5-second clips. That's a lot of time in the field with the optic. And we do that so we can speak honestly about an optic, really is what it comes down to.
Right. And that's, I mean, not to harp on that too much, but I really feel that's what separates Outdoor Legacy from a lot of
Mhm.
other, optic companies. Cause like you said, I know that's always been a struggle for me.
Yeah.
I'm the type, I'm like a window shopper, I guess you can say. I want to feel it. I want to
Yeah.
touch it,
Yeah.
look through it, would love to hunt with it. Cause you're not making just a 50 or $100 purchase. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of these you're spending two, three, four, five, six,
Yeah.
$10,000.
Yeah.
That's a big leap for a lot of people to go out and buy. So
Yeah.
to me,
It's a lot of money.
you're putting a lot of faith into that salesman or that company that you're buying that thermal from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's I mean, your scope that you bought from us was not inexpensive. I mean, it wasn't cheap at all. It was the hottest scope in the market at the time, and those at the time had a hefty price tag. But there are places you can go and look at thermal, and you go into the shop and they pull out the thermal and they say, you look across the room and you're like, oh, that looks fantastic. Or if they say, come out in the parking lot and you're looking across the street at a car, well, that car at 20 yards is going to look great, but is a coyote at 300 yards going to look great with it? So there's I wish that there was a better way to help people make decisions on this, other than, just trusting people, that takes a lot of trust when you're putting that much money involved in it. But we do, again, we've been doing this quite a long time, and we have a lot of customers that we deal with, and customer service is a big part of what we do, and the experience, the no pressure, experience that we want to provide to our customer base when they come in. I want to say one other thing aside from the sales part of it, a lot of what I do, Zach, on a daily basis is technical support. Guys that buy a scope that they buy from us because they know if they have a question how to use it, they can pick up the phone and call us. They can call and ask for Hans, and Hans and I can tell them, how to work their scope. And so that that's a big factor in what really helps us is that we're going to give you the after purchase experience of, if you buy it from a big box store on, somewhere else, and you call in and you're going to tell them, hey, I bought this scope, you know how to use it. And they'll be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. We sell 10,000 products and you're asking me about a scope. Um, we use all these so we can help you if you have questions. If you bought it from us, we're going to take the phone call. We're going to help you figure out your scope. It's an electronic item. Some people get intimidated by electronics. It's not. I think once people get used to hunting with thermal, they'll realize that they'll probably like it more than their daytime scope. I'll say that. I feel like they're easier to sight in once you figure out the buttons and all that. It's easy. It's nice. I mean, you can pick your color palettes. You can have 10 different reticles in there. You can record your video, your hunts. I mean, it has changed the way that we view hunting on YouTube. I mean, really, or anything. I mean, the ability to record your hunts through your optic, firsthand experience of seeing that video and seeing that coyote and seeing it called in and all that. I mean, before that, you were either putting a phone behind your daytime scope, which you can't hunt that way. That's not you can't do that. Or somebody was filming you while you were looking through your scope, and they were trying to focus on the animal, this has, as far as entertainment on YouTube, has changed the way that people, I think, well, it's brought more people into predator hunting, no, undoubtedly. I mean, it's grown the sport, I think, exponentially, so much so that coyote hunting and coyote hunters dominate the thermal optics industry. It used to be hog hunters. When I got started in this 10 years ago, it was all hog hunters. I mean, in the South, basically. And they were buying thermals to get rid of a problem. I mean, yeah, there was a little bit of sport to it eventually later on down the line. But initially, it was like, I got hogs, we got pastures and fields we got to get rid of. Now, 80% of my calls are coyote hunters, just strictly coyote hunters. So you can see how much thermal has gotten people into it. And some of these laws in these different states have loosened up and they've legalized it and made it easier. So there's been that influence as well too. But thermals has really evolved our sport and made it mainstream. It used to be, duck hunters and deer hunters, and they had all the publicity, and big game hunters. And man, now you're seeing these people get into predator hunting, and now you're starting to see the content get more and more views. You're starting to see predator hunting shows on some of these hunting networks that are starting to take mainstream, and night hunting shows. So it is definitely predator hunting has gotten a lot, I would say, a lot more popular and mainstream. Before, people used to just coyote hunt so they could clear out coyotes from their deer leases, and now it's like, I'm a coyote hunter and I don't really shoot deer, all I shoot coyotes. So it's good to see. It's the tournament circuit, coyote hunting tournament circuits are crazy now. It's really neat to see how this is all culminated.
Yeah, I know for where we are here in the Midwest, until thermals came along, yeah, you would go out with a red light at night,
Mhm.
but it was mainly daytime. That's where you were more efficient,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say.
absolutely.
And it still wasn't really even efficient. We talk about that all the time. You could go bust your butt all week
Mhm.
making 100 stands, and
Yeah.
you might kill 5, 6 coyotes, because where I'm at, we're all square miles,
Mhm.
and there's 4, 5, 6 houses on each mile.
Mhm. Mhm.
So with just the traffic, dogs out, people out, it was hard to call in. You had to be in the timber and shotgun them, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not easy to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when thermals came around and guys started using them, well, you went from working your butt off, killing 4 or 5 a week to where it's nothing to kill 4 or 5 a night.
Absolutely. And think about this too, night hunting. When I had a regular job that wasn't in the night hunting industry, I worked a normal 8 to 5 job, come home. Um, getting going out at night was my stress release. I worked all day, and my kids were young, so I'd put them to bed about 8:30, and then I'd go out and hunt for a couple hours. And thermal allowed people, if you're lucky enough to live in areas where you can walk out your door and hunt, that doesn't describe everybody. There's I feel very blessed that I can go outside my door and call coyotes or shoot hogs. But if you do have the ability, just that stress relief. To me, being out at night, especially by myself, I like to hunt by myself. It's just like to me, it's calming, and just to kind of leave all of that stuff from the day behind and go out, and whether you call something in or you don't, you're out there and you're just enjoying it. Before, when you had a daytime optic, the only time you could really hunt is on the weekend, when you weren't working, because you worked all day, you got home and it was dark or almost dark. And you weren't, you go to sleep, wake up and do it again, and you got to hunt that weekend if you were lucky. Well, now you grab your rifle after dinner, go out and hunt, make a stand or two, come back in, and you're back in bed by bedtime, and you can do everything and be more successful. It'd probably be more successful hunting at night with a thermal. It is. I would say there's some hunters out there, traditionalists, I would say that view thermal optics as cheating, and that say that it's easier to thermal hunt at night. You're cheating, you need to do it the right way and all that. Is it easier? Maybe. I mean, probably. It's probably a little bit easier to call in a coyote at night, only because you still have to play the wind right. You still have to somewhat hide, but you've taken away some of the element of them being able to see you as much. It might be a little bit easier. We don't know. But I know that coyote hunting at night is made people more successful hunting, I would say. I mean, I don't think anybody would doubt that. But giving people around here, we do it. We're in a big ranching community, a lot of cows and fields and all that kind of stuff. So shooting coyotes was to get rid of a problem, just like hog hunting. So I I didn't really do my first coyote hunt tournament until I'd already been doing hunting for quite a while, but we were just hunting, to get rid of some coyotes that were messing with running some cows around. They were chasing cows and, making them pass out basically. And so we were just trying to get rid of the problem. And then the coyote hunt tournaments started getting popular. So we started doing that. And we saw that they were 24-hour tournaments. And what guys were doing was they would barely hunt during the day and they were hunting all night with a thermal. Like they were just like taking naps during the day, or they may but they were just having not that much success during the day and just having a ton of success at night. That was what their whole game plan was. And so we saw that and like, man, there's something to that. There's something with that, being able to do that with the thermal. And now I think there might be a couple tournaments that I've heard of that you can't use a thermal, but now I think it's pretty much wide open. I don't know how it is up there, but in Texas, it's bring whatever you want. You got guys out there, machine guns out there, coyote, I'm sure. Yeah,
Right, pretty much. And I haven't heard of a daytime tournament around here in
yeah,
years. Like it's
yeah.
all primarily night. Anything you see, it's all nighttime tournaments
Hmm.
now. And the daytime,
Yeah,
and I think that makes a lot of the older guys that were,
I know.
your primary, that makes a lot of them mad, but it's just the way the world is anymore. I mean, the amount of people, I'd say, I mean, I don't know. I'd hate to put a percentage or number on it, but 90% of your coyote hunters are going to be nighttime hunters anymore, I feel, if not more.
Yeah, yeah. There's guys that call in and say, I'm big in the coyote hunting circuits. I do all the tournaments, and I've never used a thermal, and I can't compete anymore. I've got to get a thermal." Coon hunters, thermals have gotten really big into coon hunting. And so they, a lot of these guys are using a thermal monocular, to spot and find coons up in a tree or something like that. But it's at night, if you're not using thermal, if you're watching the show and you haven't used a thermal, what thermal basically does is it is picking up or reading a heat signature. So there's a thermal sensor in this optic. You point it at you point at anything, you point at an animal, point at a tree, and every object that you point that scope off is going to give off a certain amount of heat. A tree might give off more heat than the ground. An animal is going to give off more heat than a tree. So it's reading all these different variations in heat, and it's going to display that on screen. So you're going to see an animal, you'll see a coyote, you'll see the tree behind it, or you'll see a tree in front of it. You're going to see all this. So, but animals stand out, they glow on the screen. So they can't hide at night with a thermal that well. You'll find coyotes quicker. You'll be more successful hunting because you will see the most important thing I think with coyote hunting is the advantage you have is seeing them before they see you, knowing where they are before they know where you are. And if with a thermal, you will see a coyote running in from 1,000 yards away. I mean, in some cases. And so if you have that much lead time, you got a coyote and he's like, oh man, he's 800 yards away and he's coming in hard. You have so much time to prepare to get steady. The main thing is with coyote hunting, you don't want to move around a lot because they really see movement. So you can get in your shooting position, be ready, have everything ready to go. That way, all you got to do is work that collar and get that dog to do what it needs to do. Before daytime, they jump in on you real quick. You may not see them. You're like swinging the rifle around. You didn't have as much, depending on where you're hunting, you just didn't have as much time to prepare for the shot like you do with a thermal. You see so much more and everything at night. Just those coyotes just can't hide from it. And so if you're out there and you're like, well, what advantage do I have with thermal? I'd say the biggest advantage is um, finding animals a lot quicker and a lot easier than you would find an animal during the day with the daytime scope, and having the advantage of you being able to see them well before them knowing that you were even there. And that's the thing. Like with hogs, last night I was out hog hunting and getting some video, and I was in some tall grass and I was stalking out to a hog. Well, I can keep my eye on this hog while I'm walking out. He doesn't know I'm there, and I can walk up into about 30 yards of him. Now there's some tall grass, and I had the wind right. You gotta always have the wind right. Doesn't matter if it's night or day. But I can sit there with a thermal monocular and creep in on him. And when he stops, I can stop. When he starts moving, starts eating, rooting around, I can start moving. And just having that advantage of you seeing them and them not knowing you're there allows you to get closer, allows you to get coyotes to come in closer. Uh, I wouldn't say that I'm a great coyote caller. I mean, there's sometimes I feel like I'm good at, it, and there's sometimes I think I will never call another coyote in my life. But at night, it seems like you can get those coyotes to come in a lot closer. And there's guys that I talk to that are in Wyoming, they can see 1,000 yards. And they're like, yeah, man, and during the day, they're not coming 500-600 yards is the closest that you're going to get them. At night, you can get them to come into 100 to 200 yards because they have that confidence of darkness. They feel protected by darkness, although they're still depending on their hearing and their smell. But when they have that cover of darkness, they feel like they're a little bit more protected, and you can get them to come in a little bit quick, a little bit sooner. But we're experiencing this growth, and the thermal market and the thermal scopes and night vision is something we hadn't talked about. But night vision is or traditional digital night vision is the use of an optic with an IR light, not as advanced as thermal, and it doesn't give you the success rate as thermal, but it still gets you out at night hunting at a lot less expensive price. But what we're seeing with this advancement in technology in such a short amount of time, and the growth of the industry, and all this competitiveness, and all these companies, and when an industry gets competitive, all these other companies want to jump in and start doing it. So now you have when you bought your scope, there was three or four main companies. Now you've got dozens, and some of you still have your primary, premium brands that all have facilities here in the United States. But you have a lot of these other brands that are relatively new to the industry that people haven't heard about, but they're constantly being marketed to whenever they open up Facebook and they say, "Hey, check out this scope," and they've never heard of it. So we are at a kind of a crossroads in our industry.
Bust and Fur Audio are professionally recorded live animal sounds created by JD Pyatt. The Final How is proud to be partnered up with BFA. All sound files are available in MP3 and WAV format, which makes them compatible with most major brand electronic callers. Go check them out, bustandfur.com.
And you and I talked a little bit offline about the effect of tariffs. So that has kind of slowed the industry down a little bit. Prices have gone up, but thermal is still very popular. September 1st is the kickoff really of in our industry of when things start to pick back up and the phones start ringing off the hook and people are buying like crazy. Well, we've seen that. We've seen this past week. People are calling in, people are buying thermal. But it's unfortunately, in some cases they're paying a little bit more for the same scope. So that's a little bit disappointing, but we're dealing with it and we're moving through it.
Right. And that's where I think there's so much to go and unpack on when somebody is looking at maybe upgrading their thermal right now,
Yeah.
or they've for the last 2 years, that's all they've seen on their socials, and they're like, "Man, I'm going to do it this year. I've been saving up for the last year or whatever to do it," and now it's getting hit with that. When I feel the last 2 years, but really the last year before, you were starting to see the price of thermals come down. You were starting to get you're starting to get more bang for your buck. And the way I look at it is, a 640 scope 4 years ago to where a 640 scope is now, to me it's crazy different. I mean, it's not even in the same realm, I feel. So so when a guy's looking at it, and I guess we can kind of go that way. When I'm calling in there to talk to you about, hey, I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Indiana, and I'm looking at buying a thermal scope. What do I need to do?
That's a great question.
I mean, what brand? Pulsar, AGM, 640, 384.
Yeah.
What do I need to be thinking of when I call you? What are you going to ask me?
That's a good question. So to go back to your previous point about the price reduction, think about this while we talk about how to decide on thermal. 3 years ago, the first 1280 thermal scope in the consumer market was released by IRA USA, and it was $18,000. 3 years later, IRA USA, through their not Pix brand, releases a 1280 scope for $7,000. So it went from $18,000 to $7,000. Now the tariff has increased that price up a little bit, so it's not $7,000 anymore. Now it's $8,000. But we went from 18,000 to 8,000 in just 3 years on a 1280 resolution. Now that's the highest resolution right now that you can get on a thermal scope. Now, how to decide on an optic? And when you hear us talk about resolution is the amount of pixels on that thermal sensor. Think of it like a TV. The more pixels on that sensor, the more pixels on your TV, the better, sharper, the more clear the image is going to be. So the higher the resolution number, the more clarity you're going to have, the more sharpness that you're going to have in an image, the further that you can ID an animal depends on the resolution, and your effective shooting distance can be increased more by higher resolution. So when somebody calls in to decide on an optic, and we've talked about this on the Late Night Vision Show, because what I think helps you prepare for that conversation is to know a few things. I think first of all, it's important to know and be honest with yourself on your budget. There are really two reasons that cause people to get buyer's remorse when it comes to a thermal optic. Either they planned on, or they budgeted for, let's say, $3,000 for an optic, which sounds like a lot. I mean, it is. But in the realm of thermal optics, that's a great scope, but it's still, you're in the middle of the range of entry level to high end. But let's say you've budgeted 3,000. Well, you see this scope online and it's advertised for $800. You're like, man, $800, that's a lot less than 3,000. And I'm looking at these sheets and everything looks the same. These specs all look the same. I'm gonna gamble and I'm gonna go with the $800 scope. And who knows, I might have just found a diamond in the rough. Well, more often than not, that's not a diamond in the rough. That's, you bought a very inexpensive scope, and there's a reason for that. So they get buyer's remorse because they realize, I way underspent, and I bought a scope that I'm now going to have to turn around, that I'm not happy with, that I'm going to have to turn around and sell, lose money, and then go back, start the process over, and buy a scope that I need. So that's one way. The other way is they spend more than their budget. Even if it's a better scope, they spend more than their budget, and then they realize, oh man, I love my scope, but that's more than I wanted to spend. It makes me nervous. So those are really the two ways you get buyer's remorse. So decide on your budget, stick to your budget, draw a line in the sand. And if it's $3,000, if it's 2,000, if it's 1,000, whatever it is, whatever you feel comfortable spending, because it is a lot of money, stick to your budget and don't compromise. That way you won't have buyer's remorse. And what we can do is help you find an optic within your budget that's going to check all the boxes that you need to have, and it's going to be the best for what you can get with that money. You also need to be honest and understand how your surroundings, where you hunt. Are you hunting that on land that you're familiar with? Are you hopping around to a lot of different spots that you don't see during the day? Is your average shooting distance, under 100 yards? Is it over 100 yards? Is it over 200 yards? Are you hunting in woods, small fields, or big wide open places? So you kind of need to have a good understanding of your surroundings and where you're going to be hunting. There's some guys who are like, man, I go to Texas twice a year and that's the only time I'm going to use it, and we hunt in the woods. Well, there's a specific optic for that. There's also guys that say, well, I want an optic that's great for everywhere that I go. And most of the time I'm coyote hunting in big wide open fields, but once a year I go to Texas and we're in woods and it's thick cover. So I need something that'll work good in both of those conditions. Well, in all likelihood, there's not going to be a scope that's going to be great for long distance and great for short distance. So you're going to have to decide on an optic based on where you're going to use it most often. So if you're most often going to coyote hunt with it, that's where you need to gear your choice. If you're most often going to be using it in the woods, you need to gear your choice. And here's why that's important. Another factor in deciding on an optic is choosing an optic. And this is where people make a big mistake, because they choose resolution or they choose price and they disregard base magnification. Base magnification is one of the most important deciding factors on choosing an optic. Because let's say you need a 3.5 power scope, because we typically say if you're a coyote hunter, your average shot's over 100 yards. A 3.5 power scope is going to be ideal for your shooting conditions. If you're shooting under 100 yards on average, then a 2.5 power. Well, let's say you need a 3.5 power scope because you're hunting in wide open fields, but you decide on a scope that's the same resolution, but it's a 2 power. So it's lower base magnification. Well, what you've essentially done, and the way that digital thermal scopes work, is every time you increase the zoom or the magnification, you are cutting resolution. So you're taking away pixels every time you use magnification. So ideally, you would like to find an optic that splits the line, where you have enough magnification to take a good clean shot on a coyote or ID an animal, but not so much magnification that you have a narrow field of view for where you're hunting. So if you are a coyote hunter and you choose a 2 power base magnification scope and you're hunting in wide open fields, well, in all likelihood, every time you turn it on, you're going to have to bump up the magnification to 4 power. Well, then you've cut your resolution in half. So you paid 640 resolution money you're only getting the benefit of 320 resolution because you doubled your magnification. So magnification is a very crucial part of deciding on an optic, and that's where the consultation helps you uh, more than anything because there's so many scopes and they're all at different magnification levels. So you got a 3 power 384 resolution. Well, is that going to be better than a 2 power 640? Well, maybe it depends on where you're hunting. So
I couldn't agree with that anymore. That's
yeah,
I know that's the way I basically set up and looked
right.
at is I remember years ago, and it was you talking to you that put
Mhm.
that into my head was I mean,
Yeah,
because like
yeah.
you said, I think a lot of people miss that when
Hmm.
they just go like, well, I got a 640 and it's a two mag base. Well, I know around here where we're hunting
Yeah,
a two bag. I mean, that's you need that
that's
three
pretty low.
power. You need that
Yeah,
three and a half power. And even when you look up in your pit box, usually it's, I got a
yeah,
three base mag and it's six.
yeah,
That resolution's, I mean, it's a 320
yeah, yeah.
basically.
You've cut it in half.
And
Yeah, it's
that's a noticeable difference. And
mhm.
I think that is a huge point there for somebody looking
Yeah.
at a scope. That's something to definitely consider.
So budget application. So where you're going to be using it to hunt with is what we're going to ask for. Features. So if you want a laser rangefinder, or if you want bullet calculations, or if you want to mount, a quick release mount, that's going to be part of the conversation. Price, obviously, budget's going to be part of that. And then, using all that information, we can make a recommendation on two or three different scopes that's going to narrow your search down to help you decide on what optic ultimately is going to be the best for you, whatever brand that might be. But we have we have a lot of this content online. We talked about the late night vision show podcast where people can go and watch these reviews. And a lot of times they'll call me, I'll make a recommendation. I'll say, you know what, before you decide, why don't you go why don't you watch our video on this so you can see what the image look. I get guys that are like, okay, if that's what you say I need, I'm ready to buy now. Here's my credit card. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Take a little bit of time. You're about to spend 5,000. Go watch you a video or two. Make sure that this is right for you. And they're like, well, if you say that's what I need, that's what I need. Yeah, but this decision needs to be made 100% by you, not by me. You need to say, okay, this is what's right for me. I'm going to buy it based on how I feel and how what I know that I need. And so when you call in, we're going to go through all of that. It seems like a lot. Honestly, a 10-minute long conversation is typically what it takes. I mean, during the busy time of year, I could be taking 40 to 50 phone calls a day with guys that need consultation on what to get. On a slow day, that might be, in the dead heat of summer, it might be 10 to 20 phone calls a day. But I've over been doing it full time for 4 or 5 years. I've had thousands of phone calls of consultations. So there's really not anything I think that you can throw at us that we haven't heard. I mean, I've got guys that are buying thermals to hunt Bigfoot. I've got guys that are buying thermals to for law enforcement reasons that they're cops and they're having to buy their own thermals to keep in their cars. I got bird watchers. I got uh, any type of nature photographer you can think of that is using these not for hunting but for just videoing. I mean, there's so many different uses for thermal. I've got a demonstration that I'm doing for an oil company soon that is they want to use thermal monoculars to check the fluid levels in their tanks. Well, we all know, like I'm lazy. I don't like to check deer feeders. I can go outside, look at my deer feeder, and see how much corn's in there because the heat tells you in the side of that feeder how much corn's in there. And so, I mean, there's so many uses for thermal other than just coyote hunting or hog hunting. I don't travel really anywhere now without a monocular, at least, because how many times are you out driving around at night or traveling, and you never know when you need to see at night, when there's an emergency at night. And having the advantage of being able to see in the darkness gives you an advantage just about over everything. I went camping last weekend. Me and some buddies on Labor Day weekend, and we still like to kind of do that kind of stuff. We went on a fishing trip, but camping is a great place to have a thermal, not because you're afraid of an animal getting used, because the crazy people on the campsite next to you, that you feel like they're going to steal all your stuff in the middle of the night. I don't know what it could be, but having a thermal, there's so much benefit to it other than just hunting. But still, even just picking out a monocular, we're still going to go through the same process. Where are you using it? What kind of features do you need with it? What budget? I mean, whatever you want, we're still going to hit those same aspects of deciding.
So I'm glad you brought up binoculars because I've
Yeah.
got, I guess, my opinion. I'm curious what yours is.
Yeah.
When you're comparing your scope to your monocular, do you think it is better to
Mhm.
have I mean, on it,
Yeah.
let's say it in budget,
Yeah.
a better monocular or a better scope, like a 640 scope with a 384 monocular? Like, which
Yeah.
one do you think? And like even base mag reasons,
Yeah.
like what
That's a good, yeah.
what do you think's a
That's a,
good combination?
I get that question a lot. And people say, should my monocular be a higher resolution than my scope? Or, magnification levels. And I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer for that. Should my monocular be better than my scope? One side of the coin will say your monocular should have a higher resolution because you're using it more often. You use your monocular 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you're using a scope just to take shots mostly, or to get a final ID of an animal. So having a 640 resolution binocular will give you a more comfortable viewing experience. It's easier on the eye. It won't give you eye fatigue as much as a lower resolution. So I see that side of it. There's also the side that says, hey, your monocular is there just to find a heat signature, and you use your scope to take get the final ID. I don't know if I necessarily, like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. What I do know, though, and what is crucial is, if you are in the market for a thermal, and if you're a hunter, especially a coyote hunter, a hog hunter, what have you, I if your budget's $5,000, I would budget in a monocular and a scope. If your budget's $3,000, I would budget in a monocular and a scope. Two optics, and I know it may be hard to understand if this is not something you're into yet, but two optics are going to give you such a bigger advantage than one. If you think about it, if you buy your scope and you're like, man, I got a thermal scope, I'm ready to go, you're having to scan at night with your thermal scope. So your thermal scope's on your rifle all night long. You're on a tripod or bipod or whatever, and you're scanning that rifle right to left. Man, you get wore out. And when you get wore out, you get tired and you get lazy, and you don't scan as much. And then you start missing coyotes. Coyotes start coming in, and you don't see them till the very last minute. With a monocular, small, light, compact, you can scan and swivel 360 degrees. Sometimes coyotes running behind you. It's so much easier. You can cover more ground when you scan with a monocular. You're going to find more coyotes with a monocular just because it's more efficient, it's easier to use, and it's just going to give you an overall better hunting experience. Guys will call and say, I can really only afford a scope now. Uh, do I need a monocular? And I say, if you're not getting a monocular now, the odds are that within 6 months or so, you're probably going to call back and want them. If you do this enough, you're probably going to want a monocular. I'm not saying you got to buy one now, but eventually you're going to want one. And they do. They call back and like, man, you're right. I need a monocular. And I don't say that as to say, to say, well, I'm right and you're wrong. You should have got it back then. But we've all done this enough, and we know how crucial of a tool it is to the process of night hunting. And the guys that are out there that are effectively hunting at night are using a monocular scope combo. So the question is, um, should I have a better monocular or a better scope as far as resolution? It's debatable. I think what's less debatable is magnification levels. I think with a monocular, a wide field of view low base magnification, I think, is crucial because you're scanning, you want to be able to cover more ground. That wide field of view, it's going to allow you to keep more of the picture in your line of sight. You're going to see coyotes more along the side of you. If you have too much magnification in your monocular, you almost have like a tunnel effect where it's like you're looking through a paper towel roll, and you just seem like you have a lot of blind spots. Whereas a wide field of view just opens everything up. You'll see more coyotes. With your scope, you know, I usually like to have a low base magnification on the monocular and a higher, like a 3 or 3.5 power base on my scope because my scope, I want more magnification because I'm trying to take a good, crisp, tight shot. And, whether it be a good body shot or headshot, whatever, having that extra magnification is going to be a benefit. On the monocular, you just don't need it. You just need to be able to have that wide field of view. So that's the crucial decision part of it is making sure you get your magnification levels correct on your optics.
I agree with that. And that's the way I've always looked at it myself too,
Yeah.
is I just need to know there's a heat signature there when I'm scanning. That's all
Yeah.
I care about because I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm doing the work with the gun,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
scanner or the
Right.
monocular. So to me, it's like you were saying, that wide field of view. I want to see as much as I can with as little
Mhm.
movement as I
Yeah.
possibly can because
Yeah.
I'm primarily just coyote hunting.
Yeah.
So as soon as I see a heat signature, then I want to get down on my glass, or
Yeah.
my scope, identify it, and then we're ready to,
Yeah.
execute
I've
what's going on. So
I've tried to I was testing a monocular and it was like a 4 power base magnification monocular. And I used it for a couple hours and it gave me the biggest headache that I think I've had trying to walk around with something with that high of base magnification and having that narrow field of view and that tunnel vision just really gave me a really bad headache. And that's because of just that limited view that you have with that high base magnification. But yeah, I think what you're touching on is correct. Using the monocular as a tool to see, just know something. And when you see something out there, you're not just like, okay, it could be a coyote or it could be a cow. I mean, you know closer, like, okay, that's the size of a coyote. So by the time you get to your scope, you have a pretty good understanding that there's a 75% chance that that's a coyote. I'm going to use my scope and get, a full 100% ID on this target. But, you're using that. You're not just going to raise up your scope for every little thing that hops across the field. I mean, you got a pretty good idea what it is before you switch over.
yeah, and I think I'm glad you touched on that because I know for me when I first started hunting thermals, well, everything was a coyote at first.
Everything.
You see a
Yeah.
rabbit or a
Yeah.
raccoon or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think that just comes with time, seeing enough coyotes. I mean, I don't have the best monocular in the world, but I can about tell you just by the mannerisms and how they're
Yeah.
acting at
Yeah.
800 yards that's a coyote coming. I'm pretty sure that's what that
Uh,
is. You see enough of
the way they're
them.
moving. Yeah. Yeah. You're looking for movements and manners. I would say that I had some buddies out the other day and you're talking about seeing something and thinking it's something else. We were hog hunting and they're like, man, there's a hog 300 yards away. And I look out and I was like, no, that's an armadillo at like 20 yards away. Your depth perception, if you're not used to thermal, it's hard to judge distance sometimes, especially if you're on a new piece of property. So what he thought was a hog at 200 or 300 yards was an armadillo basically right in front of his face.
And
And so,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it was funny. We sat around and laughed at it because all night long, these guys were like, there's a hog or there's a coyote. And like, no, that's a rabbit. That's a possum. That's a raccoon, So it's just like, it just got funny after a while because it was just like they were picking out everything that wasn't a hog or a coyote at some point.
I think too, along with what you're saying, there is why you start seeing more popularity with the LRF, with
Hmm.
the laser range
Yeah.
finders. And I know
Yeah.
personally, when I started doing this, that wasn't even a thing. I
Yeah.
mean, there was an LRF on them.
No, no, no,
You
not at
just
all.
had
Yeah.
what they'd give you two lines to where you could measure something, or
Yeah.
and that
It's the
just
stat. Yeah. Every scope had a statometric, which was a very rudimentary, crude way to judge distance, which you put a line above a target and below it. And it was not an accurate way, but to judge. But yeah, laser rangefinders. And we can touch on that too if you want to talk about who would be a good candidate for a laser rangefinder or not. Yeah.
yeah, I would, because I know personally I get a lot of people ask me about it, and I'm
Hmm.
like, I my handheld has it on it, and
Yeah.
I used it 10 times when I first got it,
Yeah.
because to me, I don't have enough time when I see it's a coyote coming in.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
standing there, ranging them. I can get down on my gun, and I've killed enough of them now to where
Hmm.
I can tell you about how big it is
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
scope on how far it is. Like at depth,
Right.
it's about 100, 150 yards out there.
Yep.
You walk out and you drag them back, you know how far you are. So I don't
Yeah.
feel that I need them.
Yeah.
I think they're over hyped for what they are, but
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Maybe somebody just getting into it, like you were saying, you don't.
Yeah.
The depth perception is different.
Yeah.
If you're not hunting the same
It is.
properties and you don't know the
Yeah.
land, you're going somewhere new. Yeah, I could see to where you haven't seen it during the day and you're like, oh man, I don't know. I don't know how far that hill is. So
Yeah.
you can kind of range and get yourself.
Yeah.
I have the
Yeah.
privilege of hunting the same spots hundreds and hundreds of times. So I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I know, okay, hey, that hill's about 300 yards out there. They pop up over that hill.
Yeah.
I'm a 300 and under kind of guy. I
Yeah.
mean, my gun's
Yeah.
sighted in for that. I know if it's within 300 yards, it's in my wheelhouse. So
Yeah. Yeah. So this is probably one of the most common questions that I get when people are calling and trying to decide on an optic, because they get information from Facebook or their buddy or the internet in general, and everybody is telling them do not buy a scope without a laser rangefinder. And that's what they hear is like, well, my buddy told me if I get a scope, I got to get a laser rangefinder. It's impossible to tell distance at night. Or Facebook groups are telling me you got to get a laser rangefinder. And I'll say this right off the bat. If you choose an optic that has a laser rangefinder versus one that doesn't, you're going to probably be in a different price bracket. It does add, in some cases, anywhere from a few $100 difference to $1,000 to $1,500 difference in the price if you get an optic with a laser rangefinder. Now, a lot of the scopes, which is a good thing, that have a built-in laser rangefinder also have bullet calculation compensation ability, meaning you put your bullet specs in, your information in, the speed, muzzle velocity, the caliber, and all that, and it will adjust your point of impact based on the yardage of your targets. That's pretty cool if you got a laser rangefinder. So like, there's a lot of people that are like, man, I like that. I will say, in most cases, a laser rangefinder is a luxury and not a necessity. And people are like, well, man, that's not what everybody else has told me. And here's why. It does add a significant cost, but like yourself, like myself, like a lot of people out there, you're hunting on land that you're familiar with. All the places that I hunt are my family's land, our land, friends. I know these spots like the back of my hand. So I can tell you if I stand on one corner of the property, that fence over there is 200 yards away. I know all these spots. And a lot of people are either hunting on familiar land that they see a lot during the day and they know approximate yardages, or they're hunting over feeders or bait piles and they know that I put that dead deer 200 yards away and that's, my stands, exactly 200 yards. So a lot of people know the distances already. So if you are hunting in areas that are really, really wide open, and I say, that you can see a mile in all direction without any trees or anything, like you think about like Idaho and South Dakota, then yeah, you might need a laser rangefinder, because there's not a lot of reference points on property like that. If you are somebody in general that just feels more confident knowing the exact yardage of a target, even though, most calibers, there's not going to be a lot of bullet drop distance out to a couple hundred yards, even in some cases 300 yards, there's not going to be a lot of difference. Some people just feel more confident knowing that that coyote is 150 yards away and not 100 yards. Now, it's not going to affect where they aim, but mentally, it's a mental thing. So if you feel more confident knowing the exact yardage, then you might be a good candidate for a laser rangefinder. But if you're hunting on areas that you're familiar with, if you're hunting with a caliber that is like a normal caliber that doesn't have a lot of drop difference in it between a 50 to 100 yards, then you probably don't need one. Now, if you're shooting a 300 suppressed blackout, if you're shooting air rifles are very popular. Air rifles have a lot of drop in their rounds. So there are certain situations that a laser rangefinder might be appropriate. But I go back to I think in most cases it's a luxury, not a necessity. And be prepared, that it is going to add some in some cases a significant cost to that optic with that feature.
Right. And yeah, I guess to somebody just getting into it, that's got to be. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. It just seems like on social media, and you look everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
just one of those things to me I see, and it just seems so unnecessary. Like,
Yeah.
like you don't. Everybody's like, oh, if you don't have a laser rangefinder, you're stupid, you're dumb. You got to have one. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I don't like everything you said. You hit it right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things that man, I can see. I've never really hunted big open country, so I
Yeah.
can't speak on that. I've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
done that. Like we're
Yeah.
pretty diverse where I'm at. Like yeah, there's sections that I hunt where I can easily see over a mile.
Yeah.
It's pretty wide open, but there's still fence rows and little wood lots out in the middle, of
Hmm.
a 200-acre field. So you do
Yeah.
have that reference, but I think a lot of it is you got to know your equipment.
Hmm.
How big do they look in there? And I
Hmm.
just it scares me, I guess, more than anything with the ballistic stuff and these
Yeah.
rangefinders. You're getting a lot of people out there in the middle of the night
Yeah.
that are just throwing lead.
Yeah.
And I think to me, it's driving home enough of, are you identifying? Do you know for a fact that's a coyote out there at 700
Yeah.
yards and not, Miss Alice's dog?
It's
Like it
it's
just,
crazy. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think I see people on, and we can talk about where people get their information, but I see people on Facebook that are saying that you can easily shoot, and these are people that sell scopes. These are dealers that you can absolutely shoot a coyote at 3, 4, 500 yards with a 256 resolution scope, which 256 is like very, very low resolution in a scope. We tell people that a 256 resolution safely is 100-yard optic, 100 yard and in. But you got people mainly on Facebook that are putting this information out there and consumed by people that are trying to decide on an optic, and they're being told that they can shoot 400 yards with a 256, where I wouldn't, in a lot of cases, shoot 400 or 500 yards with a 640. I mean, I'm just not, that's not something I want to do. And I live in an area where there's not a lot of stray dogs, but I definitely don't want to shoot somebody's dog. But I just, you see a lot if you are trying to decide on an optic. And I told you, investigate, search, do research, go to YouTube, watch videos, call dealers, all of that. But you also have to be a little bit careful with the information that you do get. Like if you go to Facebook and say, I've got $2,000, what scope should I get? Well, uh, you're going to get a few accurate replies. You're going to get a bunch of people that say, why are you broke and only spending $2,000? You need to get a $10,000 scope. And then you got other guys that are recommending scopes that are $500 scopes that are nowhere near the quality of what you need. And so you get all of this noise and clutter, especially when you go like to Facebook forums and you try to ask a legitimate question to a group, and you get a lot of bad information and a lot of when you talk about laser rangefinders where people are like, Everybody says I got to get a laser rangefinder. Do I got to get a laser rangefinder? Well, maybe, and you might be, but you don't have to. I mean, we did it for years without a laser rangefinder, and you may not you may be spending on money on something you don't need. But when you get fed some of the bad information that you get on the internet about how to decide on optics, there's a lot of factors in play. I mean, even so much more than when you were buying your optics. I mean, now you've got all these companies and all of them have pro staff members and they're sending out free scopes to people to test for positive reviews, and they get people to uh, crowd onto forums to pump up. It's all about sales, obviously. And so they're trying, and I get it. I mean, it's smart. A company's trying to sell a scope and they need to market. So that's what you do. So be cautious whenever you go to a public forum, about it. I'm not saying don't do it, but understand that a lot of the information that you're going to get is not going to be good information. There's going to be quite a bit. So you need to take that information, compare it to the information that you gather yourself, and then use that whenever you do have a consultation with somebody that's used them. You know, keep some of that, knowledge, and see what's right, see what's wrong, see what's based on fact and what's based on feeling. So it's a wide, this is still the Wild West when you're talking about optics. We're still, I don't want to say we're in the infancy stage of this technology, but it is still advancing pretty quickly. And it's still a new technology to a lot of people. I know we've been using thermals for a long time. We think this is old news. Still get calls every day from people that never even looked through a thermal. So people are still trying to figure this stuff out. And when you're talking about features, and we talked about laser rangefinders and quick release mounts and all these other things. PIP, you refer to PIP, picture in picture display. People are like, what's that? There's a lot of things that are going on in these scopes technology wise that people get really concerned about not being able to operate. They feel intimidated by the technology. I get people that call that are 85 years old. They're buying a thermal scope and they say, I can't even use my cell phone. Am I going to be able to use this thermal scope? And I'm honest with them and say, yeah, you're going to have to learn it. And it helps if there's somebody around you that knows how to use it that can kind of help you, but you're going to get figured out. And most everybody does. I don't think I've ever had a guy that was not able to figure a scope out. Now, there's some that need a little bit more help than others, but that's okay. It's not overwhelming. You figure it out and you can get it dialed in. You get your scope dialed in and be ready to go and have a good time. But it's definitely, we're not in the infancy stage of technology. We're like in the bratty teenager stage at this point
Right.
of thermal technology, I would say.
Yeah. And that's what I always try to do a better job when I'm doing a podcast or something, of trying to explain myself better. Cause I do get, I guess, real relaxed on where I am. Like, I've done this for a while, like, basically, from not the beginning of thermals, but the beginning of thermal coyote hunting, or, around here,
Yeah, you were on the front end of it. I mean,
So,
and especially where you are. I mean, that you were 8 years ago. That was it was not popular then, especially in your area. I know that.
right. And so I got to constantly remind myself that there's a lot of new people in the sport now and that
Hmm.
are listening to this and, trying to find that information. I've had so many people like, it's hard to find good information, or you go, like you were saying earlier, about asking a question in some of these groups. And I'm like, man, I see a lot of them. I'm like, this dude right here's got better have some thick skin. Cause you could about read it, be like, this dude's getting tore
I
apart
know.
right now. And
I
and
know.
a lot
I
of it
know.
is, I feel bad for a lot of people. Cause it's like, this dude probably just doesn't have a friend
Yeah.
group around him that thermal hunts,
Yeah.
or he's just
Yeah.
getting into it. Who do you ask? Where do you go? If you don't have
Yeah.
a buddy that has experienced it. And,
Hmm.
you know, that's why I really want to remind people, like, I know we haven't gone in depth on a lot of what we've covered, but they need to go over and check out the Late Night Vision show. You guys have covered in depth
Hmm.
all of these, or every optic you sell, you know, as far as specs, who it's good for.
Mm,
And that's a good source of content. That's what
mm.
led me to, to
Yeah.
Outdoor Legacy. Is it's good, solid content
Mm.
and somebody you can trust. In today's world, you get online, it's brutal. And it's like you
It
said, we're
is.
in the wild west of figuring everything out. So guys that have done it are still figuring it out. And
Yeah,
it's everywhere, it seems like.
and, talking about the Wild West and people trying to get an optic for the first time. You got people that are trying to sell optics, so the competition amongst dealers and pro staff, and people that are trying to be influencers in the hunting community, and trying to get a name for themselves. So everybody's rushing in. But I think that when it comes to the late night vision show, we do gear reviews, but the things that you and I briefly touched on, we just kind of scratched the surface of deciding on an optic. Do I need a laser rangefinder? These are actually shows that we've done complete shows on. We've done probably more than one on how to decide on a thermal. Do I need a laser rangefinder? You name it. Just best, the difference in a 640 resolution, or is a 640 resolution worth the money? If it has to do with some topic about night hunting with an optic, we probably come up with a show. I mean, some of our content, because we have to do it every week, like, oh man, doing a show every week, that's a lot. You got to come up with a lot of topics because there just aren't that many new scopes to review. So in between the reviews, you got to think of, I've got sticky pads on my wall of topics. Let's see, the untold hidden aspect of deciding on an optic, and it's about not specs, but user experience. What you actually like, the size of the screen, how that pertains to the overall viewing experience, that you can't read that on a piece of paper or on a spec sheet or see on a video. But that's the kind of things like this we're talk about, and I have to write it down because I'm getting to the age where I forget what the topic. So Jason and I will think of something and then we'll try to remember what it is. But we cover all of these areas to help guide people, and a lot of people that do call the Outdoor Legacy, they do so because they watch the show. There's no doubt about it. That is the driving force. And we do the show selfishly. We don't do it necessarily out of the kindness of our heart. Yes, we like to do the show. We like to put the information out there, but we do that because we want people to buy their optic from Outdoor Legacy. I mean, I don't think we are shy about that. But we do put out a lot of free information, and we know that free information sells a lot of optics for our competition, and we understand that that's part of it. But we've been blessed beyond measure with the late night vision show and with Outdoor Legacy and with our business. We are if you don't know, I'll end it with this, I guess, or in my little soapbox. We are a Texas-based company, thermal and night vision company. This is what we do full time. We've done, like I said, I think it's been like 12 years now, selling nothing but night vision and thermal optics. I've done so. How my journey into it was starting off filming hunts. I started the podcast, so I was working primarily on the podcast. 4 or 5 years ago, I started with Outdoor Legacy selling optics and consulting on the phone. So we do this. This is our full-time job. We're not selling anything else on the side or doing any other job. So when you call in 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, we have three fantastic office managers, Angela, Jessica, and Michaela. They are the best in the business. And people call because I think they want to talk to them more than they want to talk to us. They love talking to the girls in the office, but you call them, they're going to direct the call to me or Jason or Garrett, who's another one of our staff members or salespeople, and we're going to have a conversation on which optic's best for you, and we're going to do so in a way that's going to help you get your optic, and you're going to be happy with it. So that's a little bit about our company. A lot of experience. Texas company. Good thing about our company too, and you and I talked to offline, is if you're outside the state of Texas, we don't have to charge you sales tax and free shipping. We have a very great shipping facility warehouse that if you order your optic before 12 o'clock noon, it will ship the same day. So that's a great thing. And we're going to get that order in and out in a timely manner. If it shows in stock on the website, it is in stock in our warehouse. A lot of people will call in and say, I called this other place and they said they had it in stock, but they really don't. And they're trying to get me to get on a waiting list. If it shows in stock on our website, we have it on the shelf. And so you order it, it's going to go out that same day if it's ordered before 12 o'clock noon. If it's ordered in the late afternoon, it'll ship the next day. And everything ships just about with either UPS Ground or FedEx. But we've had some very blessed success, and I appreciate you know having a show like this where you are bringing you could choose any dealer. I know you bought your optic from us, so you might be a little bit biased, but to give us a platform to not only talk about the late night vision show, but to talk about our company. I will say there's a lot of other good companies out there. We're friends with a lot of our competition, with a lot of the other dealers. We don't talk bad about each other. I mean, I send business sometimes to other dealers if I have to, and they do so likewise. And a lot of people will call us after they've talked to another dealer just to get a second opinion. And we would love to have that conversation, and we would love to be able to provide you with that optic at the end of our conversation.
Well, to go off what you were saying, I know when I started this because of what we were saying, or what we kind of touched on earlier, about how when I would open up Facebook and these groups, and I was starting to see too much information out there that to me I didn't like, as
Mhm.
far as just product getting shoved down people's throats, that I felt like this is getting crazy. And when I see people out there like, Outdoor Legacy and other brands, I am huge on customer service, how people, perceive themselves out,
Mhm.
in the outdoors, and how they hunt, and all of this is pushing good people out there.
Mhm.
And it was super helpful when I was buying my thermal, talking to somebody that hunts themselves. That's a coyote hunter. That's not just trying to sell me something just because it's going to make
Mhm.
them money. I
Mhm.
I know the girls in the office, you brought them up. When I bought that, it's a very expensive purchase. I give them my card number.
Yeah.
Well, it gets kicked back because apparently my bank would only let me spend X amount of money,
Yeah.
in
There's a
a
limit.
daytime. But
Daily limit. Yeah.
right. And, I forget which one of it was I talked to, and there Michaela rings a bell, but, calls me and is like, hey, nope, you need to call your bank. But I
Mhm.
had somebody to talk to that
Yeah.
walked me through, like, yep, this is no big
Mhm.
deal. It's kind of at
Yeah.
first, it comes back, oh, this is declined. It was embarrassing,
Yeah. I
It's like,
know.
no,
It happens all
I
the
know the
time.
buddy's in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens all the time. No, it's
Right.
yeah. So there's people out there that are watching this and they say, what can I do to make sure that I'm getting the right optic for what I'm doing? And like you said, we touched on the things that are important. A lot of people want to know also what's the best brand, and we've talked about Pulsar. We also we would throw in Knock Picks and Infrared Outdoor Ira USA into that mix. Rix is a great company. AGM is a great, fantastic company. There's a lot of good brands out there that we deal in and we have experience with, and we test a lot of others that we don't sell. But if you're wanting to know what's the best one, it really just depends on what you're looking for. But what I would say is, again, make sure the points that we hit on before, application, your budget, average shooting distance, all of that you need to kind of understand before you start the process of deciding on an optic, and what features you might need with a laser rangefinder if you feel like you need it or not. And from there, you can even yourself, I think, get it whittled down to several good choices that might be in the wheelhouse of what you might need. And you will have, if you don't have a thermal right now, and Zach, you could probably attest to this, it will it will consume you. You will get addicted. And that's what people say is like, man, I bought a thermal and my wife doesn't see me anymore, or that's all I want to do, or I'm totally addicted to this. And people is like, should I buy an entry level thermal scope, or should I just jump all in and get the nicest one I can get? And I tell people, I know, you can get a very budget friendly scope and be happy with it, and it be very successful for you. But if you do this enough, if you get addicted to it and you do this enough, you're going to want a nicer scope. You're going to want a 640 resolution scope if you do it enough. It's like a guy always using the analogy of golf. His buddy's asking him to go play golf. He doesn't have clubs. He goes to Walmart and buys the cheapest set of golf clubs on the shelf. He gets to playing and realizes he really, really likes it. He's playing 2 or 3 times a week. Well, what he's going to do? He's going to go out and buy a really nice set of clubs. So that's kind of how thermals work. You get in, you get an entry level scope, and you're like, man, I really like this. And I want to be able to see further and better. And I see all these other scopes. Then you end up investing in and getting a better scope once you realize that you are addicted to it, like so many people are. I think on one of my profile on one of my social media accounts, I put night hunting addiction enabler as my title. So, enabling people with their addiction with night optics. So it is, man. It's the way that I got into it many years ago. My brother-in-law was the first one in our. My brother-in-law and his buddy were the first ones really in our area that got a thermal, and they were the guys. They always get the first of everything. You got buddies like that. They're always going to have the first of whatever. So my brother-in-law got one. He got me looking in it. I was like, man, this is awesome. And about the same time, my father-in-law was like, we got a hog problem and they're tearing our fields up. He said, you're a young man. You need to go out and shoot them. So him saying that and my brother-in-law showed me a thermal, it was like a perfect marriage, man. And I was like, I was hooked after that. I was hooked. It's all I did. And my wife, she didn't care that I was gone at night because she knew where I was. I wasn't out hanging out with my buddies somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. I was in the woods or I was in front of the house hunting, or it was like it was a great, very good hobby to have. And now it's actually turned into a career, which truly blessed in that as well. But um if you think that you want a thermal and you're trying to decide which brand to go with or what price you need to go with, um that's a decision that you need to make with your spouse and your bank account, because you can go as big as you want or you can go as small, but there's good choices from low to high. I mean, there really is, Zach, and I think you know that. You're just seeing all the stuff out there right now.
Oh, in today's world, for sure. Like
Mhm.
anybody that, I mean, I guess it's a double edged sword. You can get overwhelmed real quick, but for what's out there, I mean, it's definitely a good time. Even putting the tariffs on the side, I know that's not helping prices, but it's such a good time to get into thermal hunting because you can get into it pretty cheap and have a good solid
Yeah.
optic. You know, as long as you're getting set up with, or
Hmm.
have the consultation and help to line you up, a guy can get
Hmm.
into it pretty cheap. And when you think
Yeah.
about, like you were saying, I know my hunting part Bill, we say this all the time is, yeah, it's pretty expensive, you could say, to get into it, but on every Friday, Saturday night, I'm not going out and buying a case of beer and doing
That's
all that.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's, and my wife's a lot happier if, for one,
Yeah.
I'm out in the house, not, I'm out of the house, not bugging her.
Yeah.
But, I'm out, you know, walking around, actually getting exercise, you could say. I mean, but
Doing that, not at the
right.
bar. And you mentioned tariff, and we can touch on that real quick because I want people to kind of understand a little bit what's going on, where we're finding ourselves right now. Uh, there was in the past several years, past few years, there was a very competitive price war going on between these manufacturers. Prices were coming down quite a bit. Technology was improving. Everything was improving. Technology, the images, the scopes were getting better. Prices were coming down drastically. Um, Last May, the industry, like so many other industries, it's not just technology or electronics, but there's been some tariffs that have come into the mix into the thermal market. So the tariffs have affected all of these thermal manufacturers uh, at different, depending on where the country of origin is. But I mean, we're looking at anywhere from $100 to $1,500, $1,000 price difference. 15 or 10 to 20% price increases on some of these optics because of the tariffs. So whether you agree with them or not, they're here, and so if you look at the price now, you may say, "Man, that's a couple $100 than it was a few months ago or a couple weeks ago." We are going through some market correction because of the tariffs, and it's just the reality. It's not good. We're not happy about higher prices, but we realize also that although this is affecting us short term, we have long term hope. We hope that these tariffs pay off in the long run as far as a more healthy economy. But I will tell you, the dealers are not happy about higher prices. The manufacturers are not happy about higher prices because in the long run, the consumer is the one that's paying for that increase. And so that's unfortunate. And I had a guy reach out and he's like, "Man, I've been saving for a year. Last summer the price was this. Now it's $1,000 more for the same scope because of the tariffs." And he was rightfully so not happy about it. And people want to know, like, should I buy a scope now and take take the tax, take the tariff, or should I wait and see if something happens and the tariffs get lowered or they go away? 6 months ago, I think that there was a chance that they might get negotiated or might have gone away. Now, I don't think so. I mean, uh, a lot of these tariffs, like with the EU, with the UK, with Vietnam, have been decided on, negotiated. The ink is dry on the paper on the contract. I mean, it's done. They have higher tariffs now for these countries. China right now is still all over the place. I mean, it's been as low, I think, in some cases as 40%, as high as 240%. I mean, it's just every week it was changing, and they still do not have a settlement on what those tariffs are going to be. So I don't think, before I was saying, yeah, you could try to wait and see if they come back down. I don't think we're at the point now where we are going to see prices come down anytime soon, really, because of directly related to the tariff. So just updating people on that, if they see prices look different or prices are higher, or maybe there's not as many sales going as there used to be. Like there used to be a lot of promos, a lot of sales. That there are a few sales going on right now, but mostly on brands and specific models that are closeout or to be discontinued or that are going away completely. So they're just trying to clear those out. So they're discounting them a little bit. But on the new stuff, there's not been any sales on any new models or new optics, uh, really because of the tariffs.
I know I do want to add that you and Jason did an excellent. The day after when we're recording this, it was dropped
Yeah.
yesterday
Yeah.
on these tariffs that go in, to depth on
Yeah.
what's going on. So if
Yeah.
anybody needs to learn, want to learn
Yeah.
more, jump over there to the Late Night Vision
That's,
show. And I
yeah,
think
that was
that's,
episode.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Zach. Sorry, there's a little bit of delay. Go ahead.
No, I was just, saying, you know, to go over there because I learned something by watching that on
Mm.
how I think a lot of people, think, well, it's China. These are come from
Yeah.
China. Well, like I think it's Pulsar. You guys were saying it's the EU and UK,
Yeah. Yeah.
AGM, and somebody else is Vietnam. Like, so,
Vietnam. Yeah.
these scopes are not coming from just China, like a lot of
Yeah.
people you
Yeah.
see back to that misinformation. So you see a lot of people like, oh, it's China. It's China. That's a
Yeah.
China scope. That's a China. It's like, well,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
affected by other places too.
I think and in the show, it was episode 383 of the Late Night Vision show. And it wasn't all bad news about price increases. We did talk about some things that were on sale, some very popular scopes that were lowered in price because they're soon to be closeouts. But on the show, we talked about the fact that we are all Donald Trump supporters. We voted for him. We would vote again for him. And we do know what the end game here is with the tariffs. We are hopeful for the future, but there is some short-term pain associated with that. And the consumer is paying, and I don't think it's a shock, but the consumer is paying this tax, this tariff. It's not being paid by the manufacturer. A lot of people said, like you said, oh, this is a China thing. We're just going after China. This is many countries. I mean, South American countries, European countries, obviously China, Asian countries. So I would say that this has affected a lot of our partners overseas. And the idea sometimes that people have is, well, this tariff, that's to punish these companies overseas. They're going to be the one that's paying for this tariff. And that's where we're going to raise this revenue. Well, the manufacturers overseas are not paying the tariffs. That tariff is actually collected at the port in the United States by the distributor. Now, the distributor, these are American companies, Pulsar USA, IRA USA, AGM. These are American companies, and they are American distributors of these products. They are paying the tariffs, and those tariffs are unfortunately having to be put in place to the consumer, and that's how this. Now these increases are they seem in some cases may seem large, but they're somewhat modest in the aspect of they're not as high. They are eating some of the tariff themselves. Also, they delayed implementing tariffs for several months because they didn't know what the final number was going to come down to. So they were in the interim, they were eating all of this tariff, tax that they were being hit with. So, not to say, I'll say that it's bad. It's bad for everybody involved right now. Hopefully, it's good for the United States. That's what we're hopeful for moving forward. That this is going to do what we hope is and bring all this manufacturing back. I don't know if it's going to bring. I don't think we're going to see like thermal companies coming back here to manufacture scopes. Maybe other industries, more manufacturing industries will come back because of it. I don't think thermal right now, but hopefully we can kind of lean in on our partners and continue to try to advance technology at the lowest price possible. But when people get in there and they see a different price, it's sticker shock, it's disappointment, and in some cases doom and gloom. So it's kind of an interesting time right now in the thermal world with these price increases.
Right. And I know you guys said on your episode, and I thought like this is what a better way of putting that is, as the new scopes start rolling out, the new models, all
Mhm.
that's going to be built into the price to where
Yeah, you don't even know.
you're not going to
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Really, that's what it is. And thermals
yeah.
have been, I mean, even with the tariffs add to it, in my eyes, they're still cheaper than they were when I started doing it.
Oh yeah. No, it's still there's
So,
still yeah, you're right. It's gonna be baked in. You're not gonna know. What we're a little bit concerned about is that this might slow down the advancement in some of the improvements because of the increased cost factor. So, we have now, before all this hit, we've got companies that are putting laser rangefinders inside the objective lenses, so they're not hanging off the side. That was a major advancement last year. There's some ocular magnification features on some of these scopes, and we were hoping that that would spread to some other scopes. I don't know. I don't know at what how much it's going to kind of slow down that progress in technology. It is in the short term right now, I think, putting a lot of these projects on hold. So you're right, though. I think that buying a thermal scope today, you're still getting it much less expensive than you were just a few years ago. Pulsar has some sales on some very good optics that have been around for a long time with like the XP50, which is a very popular scope that they're now running a special on. Rix has a really good 640 scope that's on sale. AGM they just placed some of their more popular Rattler models on sale, a couple $100 off. And I mean, these are, AGM Rattlers are one of the most popular scopes on the market as far as name recognition and people knowing about it. Knock Picks is still as popular as ever with their ocular magnification feature and their large display screen. So there, people are still buying optics, and I think they realize now it's just like, well, I'm paying a little bit more, but it's either hunt or not hunt. And what we knew, what we know, and what COVID proved to everybody is people will spend money on hobbies. That's what COVID proved. Because if you try to go in any sporting goods store, everything was sold out. If you wanted to work out, all the workout equipment was sold out. If you wanted a kayak, there were no kayaks. If you wanted fishing gear, hunting gear, everything was gone. And people were just these companies were making so much money during COVID because people were spending money on their hobbies. And so uh, we're keeping our fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, I think that was a big boom there. COVID changed. I mean, not only did it change the world, but in the outdoor space,
Oh yeah,
I think that brought a lot of people. I don't know so much new in, but I think brought a lot of people back to
yeah,
hunting. That
yeah.
may have been, just. I mean, it's a world we live in with family, with all the travel ball leagues and all that. Well,
Mhm.
man, when the world kind of shut down for that and was like, well, let's go back outside and oh,
Yeah,
that's good. This coyote hunting thing seems pretty cool. So,
yeah, yeah. Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
All righty. Well, we'll get it wrapped up here. I want to say again, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming in here. And
Yeah, yeah. So the late night vision show.com, obviously we talked about a lot the podcast, outdoor legacy gear .com, or you can go to outdoorlegacy.com. We got they'll both go to the same place. But we have a new redesigned website. Looks really good. Very user friendly. You can do a lot of search optimization through the website, narrow down scopes by price and brand and all that. But outdoorlegacy.com. And you can find me on YouTube if you want to. I do a lot of scope reviews on my own personal YouTube channel, a lot of hunts. That's where I post a lot of the hunts. But Hans ETX on YouTube, that's Hans ETX on YouTube. And you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram as well. But the main thing is through the podcast and through the company website.
all righty, Hans. Once again, man, I appreciate it. And everybody go out, shoot your guns, make sure you're shooting straight. See ya.